Bună dimineața și bun găsit la BIU. Sunt Sabina Iosub și vă invit să rămâneți alături de mine în următoarea jumătate de oră, căci o să vedem împreună în această sesiune a Parlamentului European ce lucruri importante se vor dezbate. Today here with me in the European Parliament in Strasbourg is Jaume Duch. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's good to be together again here in Strasbourg this time. It was a long time since the European Parliament was able to do the job here in France.
Yes, it's true. Because of COVID-19, of course, we were unable to come to Strasbourg. We had all our plenary sessions and all our activities in Brussels for more or less 1 year and a half. We are back in Strasbourg since June, and this is maybe the first plenary session which looks a little bit like how these sessions were before COVID arrived to our lives. So we are really happy of being here.
Let's see together what are the main topics to be debated during this session. We've seen on Wednesday, for example, the address of Ursula von der Leyen during the State of the Union. Let's see what she said.
When I stood here in front of you 12 months ago, I did not know when or even if we could have a safe and effective vaccine against COVID-19. But today, against all critics, Europe is among the world leaders. More than 70% of our adult population is fully vaccinated. We were the only ones to share half of our vaccine production with the rest of the world. We delivered more than 700 million doses of vaccines to the Europeans. We delivered Indeed, we delivered also more than 700 million to the rest of the world. We delivered to Europe. We delivered to the rest of the world. We did it the right way because we did it the European way. Our first and most urgent priority is to speed up global vaccination. With less than 1% of global doses administered in low-income countries, the scale of injustice and the level of urgency is obvious. Team Europe is investing €1 billion to ramp up mRNA production capacity with Africa. We have already committed to share 250 million doses of vaccine.
Intervenția Uniunii Europene la nivel mondial va lua inclusiv forma ajutorului umanitar pentru poporul afgan. UE nu va rămâne indiferentă la suferința acestor oameni, a punctat președintele Comisiei Europene.
We stand by the Afghan people, the women and children, prosecutors, journalists and human rights defenders. And we must continue supporting all Afghans in the country and in neighbouring countries. We must do everything to avert the real risk that is out there of a major famine and a humanitarian disaster. And we will do our part. We will increase again humanitarian aid for Afghanistan by €100 million. This will be part of a new, wider Afghan support package that we will present in the next weeks to combine all our efforts.
Uniunea Europeană își va spori sprijinul financiar pentru a ajuta țările mai sărace să lupte împotriva schimbărilor climatice și să se adapteze la impactul acestora, a adăugat Ursula von der Leyen.
We will now propose an additional €4 billion for climate finance until 2027. But we expect the United States and our partners to step up too. This is vital because closing the climate finance gap together, the US and the European Union, would be such a strong signal for global climate leadership, and it is time to deliver now. We have no time to wait anymore.
În plus, Uniunea Europeană își va dubla finanțarea pentru a proteja natura și a opri declinul biodiversității la nivel mondial, în special pentru țările cele mai vulnerabile, a punctat Ursula von der Leyen. Până atunci, Europa mai are de rezolvat o problemă presantă de pe agenda sa: criza semiconductorilor.
Allow me to focus on semiconductors for a moment. These tiny chips that make everything work, from smartphones to electric scooters, from trains to entire smart factories. There is no digital without those chips. And while we speak, whole production lines are already working at reduced speed despite growing demand, because of a shortage of semiconductors. And while global demand has exploded, Europe's share across the entire value chain, from the design or manufacturing capacities, has shrunk. We depend right now on state-of-the-art chips manufactured by Asia. So this is not just a matter of our competitiveness. This is also a matter of tech sovereignty.
Uniunea Europeană va prezenta așadar un nou act european privind chipurile.
We need to coordinate the European level and the national investment along the value chain. And the aim is to jointly create a state-of-the-art European chip ecosystem, including production, that ensures our security of supply and will develop new markets for groundbreaking European tech.
Este nevoie de o politică europeană de apărare cibernetică, inclusiv de o legislație privind standardele comune, în cadrul unui nou act european privind reziliența cibernetică, sunt de părere oficialii europeni. Toate aceste aspecte vor fi discutate la summitul privind apărarea europeană, ce va fi organizat la nivel european.
Okay, so important topics underlined by Ursula von der Leyen. We know what is the state of the Union. What are the main steps to achieve the goals?
Well, this is a parliament, and the role of the parliament is to control the government, to monitorize what the government is doing. Of course, in the European Union, there is no government, but there is the European Commission, which is a kind of a government. And
Similar
that's,
to, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why this debate on the State of the Union, which takes place always in September, it's very important, because it's the moment where what the President of the Commission is doing is first telling us how she analyzes what happened during the last year, to present to the Parliament, and through the Parliament to the public opinion what the Commission has been doing in the last 12 months. And I think in this case this will be even more important than ever, because these last months were quite complicated because of COVID, but also quite successful. And then the steps ahead. What's next? What are the priorities of the Commission and the European Union as such for the next months? If we are going to keep the same that we decided together in 2019 after the European elections, or we have to modify some of them, for example, because of COVID. And then, of course, this means that at some point there will be legislative proposals coming from the Commission following the conclusions and the decisions taken during these debates and during the process of relationship between both the European Commission and the Parliament.
It is important to see that at the European level, we've been vaccinated a lot of people, more than 70%. Average, of course, of the European Union. Some countries are, of course, under this line, some other over this line. It is one important goal that was achieved by the European Union and was an important help during the pandemic, made with the hand, let's say, of the European Union.
I think that is one of the biggest successes in the history of the European Union, or at least recent times. Why I say that? Because we should try to imagine the opposite, the counter situation, which each country trying to get the vaccines on its own, in some way fighting against other countries to get those vaccines at the best possible price. Now, there are many vaccines in the market. Maybe it's not a problem anymore, but of course, some months ago, the situation was completely different. I think that it was really a great idea to organize this operation at the European level, because that's also why the European Union has been created. I mean, for adding the strength of each country and create something which is stronger than just each country individually. And this is what happened. This is why the European Union got all the vaccines quite quickly. And this is why now we can say, yes, that more or less 70%, even a little bit more of 70% of the European citizens are already vaccinated. And remember that some months ago there was a lot of criticism. Yeah, but the British and the Americans and the Canadians, they are vaccinating better and faster than the European Union. No, this was a marathon. And now we are at the end of this marathon, and we see that there are many more Europeans vaccinated than Americans, than Canadians, or than British. We are more than 70%. They are between 60, 65, 66%. So we did it best.
In the last period, another issue appeared, one that was considered somehow closed, or at least we were not expecting to see important actions in the near future from Afghanistan. We know that the European Union will see exactly how to tackle the new situation created over there. I think it's one of the most important things to be discussed also during this session.
Yeah, this is going to be discussed with the High Representative, Josep Borrell, in the hemicycle. And this is, I would say, one of the 2 or 3 major topics this week, because, of course, Afghanistan is, first of all, about the country, about Afghanistan itself, about the situation there, about how to help people not to be persecuted by the Taliban, how to rescue those who were cooperating with the European Union and with the member states, especially, of course, the situation of women. But there is also a second thing, which is the effect of the Afghan situation in the European Union itself, and in the discussions within the European Union about which kind of role we should play in the international sphere. So about the external policy of the European Union, or even about the possibility of having a security and defense policy which is fully European. And this was a discussion for the last years, but now it's obviously even, I would say, more prominent among the topics to be discussed in the next months. And this is what you will see also in the hemicycle. The European Union has to decide about how to put in parallel its strength in the commercial, in the economic, or in the monetary fields with the situation at the international level, with its own external policies.
What else should we put on the agenda for the next month?
Well, I think that, of course, we mentioned the State of the Union in Afghanistan, but of course there are many other priorities which are coming. One priority is the discussion about what the Commission called Fit for 55, which means all the legislation to be adopted in the next months and years to keep with the promise of reducing the level of pollution, the level of creation of CO2 in the European Union, because, as you know, we made some promises, not just to ourselves, but also to the rest of the world, and we have to deliver. This will be a big topic in the next months. Then it's also quite clear that we have to cope with the consequences of COVID, not just from the economical point of view, but also the social point of view. I see in the European Parliament a huge appetite for developing social policies, for not avoiding that the European Union cannot only be about economy, about the money, or about the internal market. It's also about the people, about the persons, about the human beings. And for that, we need, let's say, to increase the social elements of our policies, to be sure that we are able to defend the European model, which is not the American model or the Chinese model or the Australian model. The European model as such is a very specific one, is based on the social economy market, and we have to protect both economy and social.
It is also interesting to see how should, here at the European level, adapt all the promises, how should be adapted all the promises made in the last years regarding the Green Deal, regarding digitalization. We know that As you said, we've made some promises, we have to deliver, but also we have to be realistic. I'm underlying this. When seeing that something is not going to happen at the moment we've said is going to happen, we have to adapt. Let's see what are these areas.
Well, this is of course linked also to the recovery plan and to this huge effort that the European Union is going to do in the next 3-4 years to help people, to help enterprises, and to help the governments to recover from the consequences of the pandemic. As you know, there are several priorities there. One priority is about the Green Deal, a second is about the digital, the third is about the social Europe that I just mentioned. But these topics are not new. Before COVID, there were plans about these 3 areas of work. Now the question is how we reassess the situation, how we adapt what was decided or programmed 2-3 years ago to the situation after COVID, where maybe some economies are more fragile than they were in previous years, or maybe there are countries that in some way thought that they could reach different targets or goals at different moments of the next years, and now because of COVID they will need an extra deadline, or maybe they will need more money. I mean, when you see, for example, all the processes for decarbonization, it's obvious that some countries will need a lot of extra help to be able to make this change, this evolution to more cleaner energies or policies. And this is to be reassessed. I think that the national plans which are being adopted or are adopted now country by country have also to take this into consideration. And there is a role to be played by the European Parliament, which is to be sure that the budget that the European Union is going to invest, to use the ordinary budget from one side and the specific, special, extraordinary budget, which is the recovery plan, they are coherent and that we are pushing in the same direction.
We've seen that the plans are quite different. It is normal. They are made to measure, let's say, how we use the expression in some other areas. They are made for the problems of each country, tackling these new situations, but keeping in mind the final goal. Do you think do you still consider that what we've promised, we will be able to deliver? We've promised before pandemic, that's why I'm asking. We've promised a lot of things to do, but it was a promise made before pandemic and the situation have changed a lot.
I think so, but of course it doesn't depend only on the European institutions. It will depend on the national governments, and probably there will be governments which will perform better and others which will perform less better. So this is to be seen, but the money is there. It's a huge amount of money. Never before the European Union has mobilized 750,000 billion euros in the next years, plus 1 more billion which comes from the normal budget. The national plans are being adopted. The Commission, of course, is looking into the detail of these plans before they are accepted. The European Parliament also is assessing these plans and is helping the Commission in this adoption process. And there will be a control by the citizens through the national parliament, through the European Parliament. But again, the measures are there, the money is there. Now it's about implementation. And of course, it's also, and I think this is very important, to understand that this money, it's not about how to spend, it's about how to invest.
Let's put some will also in this mix, and maybe we will see together the citizens being more into this. More into applying these new plans in each state. I think it's important for each of us to participate to the change and to understand the direction that we're going to. Thank you so much for being with us today and for explaining what's next in terms of the European Parliament.
Thanks again, and thanks for coming to Strasbourg.
We will see each other in the next period. Thank you again. Rămâneți pe Antena 3, ne revedem și sâmbătă viitoare la 9:30. Cu bine și sănătoși să fim!